Okay, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Secrets of Role Mangging for my campaign of Horror on the Orient Express for Call of Cthulhu 7th Edition. So this is Secrets of Role Mangging, which means two things. One is this is a counterpart to Role Mangging. So you're going to have to watch that first to understand what I talk about in this video, which basically means that's more or less roughly 2 hours-ish of content per week related to this campaign, which for some people that's ugh, but for other people probably interests them, so there's that. The second thing is this is Secrets of Role Mangging, so anybody that is participating in the campaign can freely watch the regular Role Mangging, which is generally just a recap, but I inevitably reveal certain tidbits to help them and so on and so forth. But Secrets of Role Mangging is completely off limits to anybody participating in the campaign until the campaign is finished or they are finished, either way. I go into a lot of in-depth stuff into the background of the campaign, what they missed, things that are coming in the future, and all sorts of little stuff like that. So generally I talk about stuff in this video that I don't want them to know, but I let you guys in so we can kind of just have a bit of a back and forth discussion, and I get to share my excitement about the campaign. Okay, that being said, we had the first session then. And, okay, so my predictions actually for the first session was they were going to go, they were going to get to the banquet. That's how it starts. They were going to go through that. They were going to probably become pretty well familiar with the professor. They were going to warm up to him. He's a good guy, and he was going to plan like an event with them, and they're going to be all into that because that's kind of the only thing going on in their lives, basically. And then before that event would come about, they would read this article that he's missing, and they would be really worried, and they might try to do some investigations. They would get the note from him. They'd go to that. They'd get through all that. And then he just kind of handed this briefcase, a goal, and just, here you go. And I wasn't sure how far they would really get. I didn't expect them to get out of London in the first session. I really didn't. Because the key thing, the big thing in London is this man dies 3 times in one night. That was really supposed to just captivate them. And I think part of it was, I think it was a kind of a twofold problem. One was the writing of the campaign, where it would really kind of push the whole main mission of the campaign was to get on the Orient Express, trek across Europe, get these pieces, and get that going. But in doing so, it really kind of just passes over this event. This man dies 3 times in one night, which is strange because the campaign itself hypes it up so much. That headline is written on the back of the campaign box. I think it's supposed to be a really big deal. It kind of starts out the campaign, more or less, is boom, this big headline that everybody's talking about. So I think part of it was the writing of the campaign, and then part of it was me not being fully prepared for the investigators. Like, I thought, I guess, that it would captivate the investigators' minds a bit more than it did. But I guess I didn't really grasp the idea that they were going to, hold on to the whole giant expedition thing so much. And so they just completely overlooked, more or less, the big headline. They booked their tickets, they packed, and they're gone. And so it's a shame. It's a shame because the man dies 3 times in one night. It doesn't actually... Okay, so what it is, I guess I should start with kind of a rough overview of the campaign. Which, again, this is like the huge thing. If any of my players are watching, this would be the huge thing. But if they're watching, I will know if they watch these videos, and I'll kick them out, so it's not a big deal. It's unfortunate, but I would hope they know better. Okay, so let me bring up the campaign book then for this. Okay, so the Makrat guy, the Turkish man Makrat, who was apparently killed 3 times in one night. Yeah, obviously that's all a complete farce. And but the Makrat guy is kind of the more or less the main villain of the campaign. I don't know if it really gives a good summary. I think it does. I just want a good summary for you guys. There's a summary of Makrat and all that kind of stuff that I really would like to read. I don't know where. It might not be in the campaign book. I don't know where it is. It's not at the front of this. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's got to be... Well, I guess there's kind of two main villains. One of them is going to be much more prevalent in the investigator's mind for most of the campaign. The one that's going to be there, kind of I guess the actual main villain, but the one that kind of bookends the campaign more or less. The final villain is Makrat. And Makrat is an occultist, I guess. I don't really have a full grasp of the full story. I've yet to read the entire campaign, I guess I should say that, which is really kind of like, that's not good. I should have read the full campaign, but I don't think it'll interrupt the sessions for a while. Okay, so here, I'll just read the plot thickens. Because Makrat is the guy that is watching them at the banquet. And it says, Mehmet Makrat has lived in London for some time. He was interested that Smith was to lecture and managed an invitation by theft or by murder, perhaps, for either comes easily to him. Smith crossed Mehmet's father, Selim Makrat, 30 years ago, and enemies of his father interest Mehmet. Noticing their conversation with Smith, he studies the investigators over the next several days. He selects them to be the pawns in his recovery of the Sedefkar simulacrum and in the elimination of Selim. What Mehmet learns and how he learns it depends on previous accomplishments of the investigators, but a group possessing free time and independent means is necessary to his plans. It may be an amusing bonus if investigators' successes against the mythos justify Makrat's personal enmity. More days of patient sleuthing show that Smith's isolation makes him a proper target. Makrat sends a dimensional shambler to deliver the hapless Smith to the shunned mosque in Constantinople. There, Smith becomes an anonymous gift, never to return. The poor man believes that the brothers have tracked him down at last. Lucky investigators may survive to meet in Constantinople what is left of him. Makrat then confronts Smith's faithful manservant Beddoes. Beddoes is told and is offered quite explicit proof that if he does not help Makrat in his abominable deceptions, Professor Smith will never be seen again. With Beddoes' frightened assistance, Smith's London home is torched and police suspicions directed toward the manservant. Finally, Makrat summons and murders the three pseudo-Makrats, erasing his own tracks. The plan is in motion. So yeah, he's kind of the main spellcaster, I guess, of the campaign, and this is all kind of him. He wants to get the simulacrum because he wants to take over the world, more or less. And I don't know why I don't have a good summary of this. It really should be in here somewhere. I could have sworn I read like a perfect summary of the campaign, but I don't know where it is. Okay, so here I guess I could read all this if you guys really want me to. This would be all the I guess yeah. This will be the best summary of the campaign, so sit back, I'll read. The Sedefkar simulacrum, because that's the main focal point of the campaign, is the simulacrum. The Sedefkar simulacrum is a statue, one older than human history, built by unknown hands, perhaps as the original pattern, or at least as one pattern for humanity, then cast aside. In human memory, it was first unearthed from the ruins of the nameless city which preceded Byzantium. Since then, men have borne it, or parts of it, to all corners of the globe, but always the simulacrum wends back to where it was first buried. Once Byzantium, now Constantinople, soon to be Istanbul. In the 11th century, the simulacrum came into the possession of Sedefkar, a Ghazi Turkmen who had fallen from Islam and turned against his emir. Protected behind the impregnable walls of Constantinople, this evil apostate accrued great wealth. One night he caught a thief in his treasure room and had the man flayed to death on the spot, that the thief might die in sight of the gold he desired. The unblinking gaze of the statue watched the torture, and that night Sedefkar was visited by the statue's maker, the Skinless One, an avatar of Nyarlathotep. Yes! Yeah, so, yeah, you know Nyarlathotep's going to be involved. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, he is. Maybe not in the book, but in the campaign. Yeah. He demanded worship from Sedefkar, and in return was taught the ritual of enactment, which empowers the statue and unlocks its foul magics, the greatest of which is that the owner of the simulacrum can don the skin of another human and faultlessly assume the guise of that person. But he or she who does this becomes a thing of great uncleanliness, and the owner must perform a ritual of cleansing with the statue every 4 days or corrupt into something inhuman. Sedefkar lived well over 100 years. He unearthed the Mim Sahis, the Vorish knife, which heralded the coming of the Skinless One in the time of Constantine the Great. When he wrote of the simulacrum, he gave it his name, and thus it became the Sedefkar simulacrum. He had prophesied that one day he would lose the artifact, and he was determined that its secret should not be lost. Sedefkar composed the Sedefkar Scrolls, 5 symbolic texts which conveyed most of what he knew. The scrolls are difficult to translate. They are written in the common Arabic alphabet, but in part composed in Old Turkish, a very different language, and the mystical ideas they contain are strongly influenced by medieval Greek Orthodox church jargon, and by the awful insights granted by Nyarlathotep. Neither Sedefkar's logic nor presentation are easily penetrated, since he had long been insane. The scroll of the head contains the history of the statue as Sedefkar could determine it, and those thoughts and memories which seemed pertinent. The scroll of the belly treats the worship of Nyarlathotep. The scroll of the legs discusses the foundation of Sedefkar's powers, the hideous magics taught to him by the Skinless One. The scroll of the right hand describes Sedefkar's force of deed, the ritual of enactment for the simulacrum, and the fifth scroll, the scroll of the left hand, imparts the ritual of cleansing significant to the impure or unlucky hand. Sedefkar inscribed the last of the scrolls in 1203. The Fourth Crusade breached the walls of Constantinople in 1204. Sedefkar hoped to escape with the conquerors, but a Venetian cabal known as the Unburdened Flesh sought the simulacrum for themselves. Frankish knights under order from Count Baldwin followed the Venetians, exposed Sedefkar, and killed him in his Red Tower. They recovered the simulacrum, the scrolls, and a strange knife, the Mim Sahis. As ordered, they returned the occult artifacts to their lord, who passed all but the knife to the leper monk Brother Merovac for closer study. The monk and the artifacts disappeared that night. Aha. The leper monk was in fact Fenalik, a vampire some 870 years old. He once Tilius Corvus, a captain in Constantine's legion. In the year 330, he led his men to investigate a mysterious plague in Lydia, which caused the victim's skin to split open and then rise as monsters. The plague was caused by Unwen, a Goth slave who discovered the Mim Sahis in an ancient Vorish temple. When Unwen was slain, his blood and hate gouted over Corvus, and that night a new vampire was born. 9 centuries later, Fenalik returned to Constantinople with the Fourth Crusade. He escaped with the scrolls and the simulacrum, and held them for nearly 600 years. Donning the simulacrum degraded the vampire's ability to transform, but also freed him from the need to return to his coffin each day. The ability to adopt new guises freed the vampire and admitted him everywhere. He fed well, though rarely did he kill, for so protected he had no desire to produce others of his kind. When the Crusaders returned to Venice, bearing loot from the sake of Constantinople, the vampire went with them. There he stayed for 200 years, haunting and haunted by the Queen of the Adriatic's funereal beauty. In the 15th century, the vampire moved on. His European travels coincided with a wave of religious hysteria and witch hunts sweeping the continent. The vampire settled in Paris as the Comte Fenalik. He had the guise of a human and the tastes of a monster. Toward the end of the 18th century, he had premonition of the statue's loss, but discounted the fear. He constructed a manor in Poissy at the edge of the Forêt de Saint-Germain, not far from the scene. The parties held there became famous and then infamous. The authorities took notice and arrested the Comte. Fenalik arrogantly assumed that his position and influence would free him in a few hours. He went willingly, as a human, and was placed in an asylum. Away from the statue for 4 days, convulsions hit. The monster surfaced, and Fenalik killed. Thus, some at Sherrington saw the Comte for what he was, a vampire. They trapped Fenalik in the basement with prayers and garlic. The prayers did nothing. The garlic pinned him, and bricked up the entrance to his cell. Weakened by the garlic, denied the sacrament of blood, and helplessly corrupting without being able to cast the ritual of cleansing, Fenalik fell into a life-preserving coma. For now, he passes out of the history of the Sedefkar simulacrum. The simulacrum himself was taken by looters who rifled Fenalik's manor house. Some shared it as a minor prize and took it apart. In time, the pieces were scattered across Europe. The scrolls were found and removed. The Sedefkar simulacrum and the knowledge of its use were lost. The scroll of the head was taken by Louis Malone, captain of the soldiers who chased away the looters at Fenwick's mansion. In 1915, a descendant of his swapped the scroll to a British soldier for some cigarettes. The British soldier's name was Edgar Wellington, and he still has the scroll of the head. The other 4 scrolls eventually found homes among the small circle of European intellectuals interested in things Ottoman, who saw them as quaint ravings of a madman. Eventually, all 4 scrolls were acquired by Constantinople's Topkapi Museum, an insignificant part of a great collection of interest, mostly because of the disgusting freehand drawings. In the early 19th century, a young scholar named Selim Makrat read the scrolls. The thing described intrigued the impious Makrat. Though he fancied himself a rationalist, he also respected the scrolls as prizes relevant to the birth of Ottoman power. Personally, he was tempted by them as vehicles for his own cruel sadism. When the procedures worked, the skinless one had a new worshipper. Confirmed in his daring, imagining himself the new Osman, Makrat gathered others to him and taught them some of the magic from the scrolls. In a crumbling empire, they too were impressed by the efficacy of this magic. They faithfully followed Makrat, and he founded a cult, the Brothers of the Skin. Among other places, they seized the Red Mosque, an abandoned place of worship built on the site of what had once been Sedefkar's Red Tower. In time, it became known as the Shunned Mosque among those unfortunate enough to learn what went on inside its red-tinted walls. By the 20th century, the cult's quiet power was considerable, but Makrat's primary concern was with his own vitality. The magics in the scroll of the belly allowed him to replace every part of his body except his heart, for heart was something which the skinless one lacked himself. Makrat faced inevitable death. He knew about the Sedefkar simulacrum and had long taken it for granted as lost or destroyed. Now he dreamt of recovering it, for the scrolls implied that the owner of the simulacrum would be immortal, though it would be more accurate to say that the owner can replace failing body parts. The owner could still die from wound or injury. But Selim's vitality is lost. Rather than undertake the quest himself, he sent his son, Mehmet Makrat, to find the simulacrum and bring it to the Shunned Mosque, where the brothers could bask in its glory and in their worship of the skinless one endure forever. Mehmet has obeyed his father, but Mehmet Makrat is a heretic who believes that the simulacrum should be recovered to give the brothers great power in the world. Similarly, he considers the skinless one as a tool for use, not as object for worship. He has been educated in Europe and England, and he has made greater study of the mythos than Selim. Whereas time satiated the father's megalomania, the son's thirsts are fresh, virile, and global. On his quest, Mehmet Makrat took 3 brothers. He gave each of them his own general appearance, identity, and name. Together they scoured the world, researching, traveling, uncovering. Finally, he had a clear idea of where all the pieces might lie, but his father kept him closely watched, and he could not trust the loyalty of his doubles. He hatched his plan. Returning to Constantinople, he made his full report, promised complete success in the near future, and departed. In leaving, he stole the scroll of the left hand, which discusses the ritual of cleansing. He gathered his fellow Mehmets in London and murdered them to forever still their tongues. Now Mehmet Makrat needs someone to recover the segments of the simulacrum for him. He cannot do it for himself, for his father's agents know him and watch for him, and their magic makes any disguise futile. He cannot use any of the brothers, for they are faithful to Selim. He chooses instead people of whom his father is unaware, people who might go to such effort not for Mehmet, but for an old friend, especially an old friend in dire need, especially to serve the good of humanity, someone like the investigators. The vampire did not die, but lay in the dark cellar of the asylum at Sharrington, forgotten. He was discovered and unwittingly revived by the director of the asylum. Rotting, twisted, madly hungry, totally insane, at first he sought blindly for the simulacrum. As fresh blood restored him, he grew cunning once again. Arriving at Poissy, Fenwick learns the investigators seek the statue, and though they can move freely in this new and bizarre society, Fenwick's ghastly form cannot. He decides to let them gather the pieces. When they have the simulacrum complete, Fenwick will kill them all. Since they do not know of Mehmet Makrat, neither does he. The investigators undertake the quest because Mehmet Makrat, disguised as a friend of theirs, tricks them. Ahead of them, Selim craves the simulacrum. Beside them, Fenwick waits for the simulacrum's return. Behind them, Mehmet follows stealthily, intending to snatch the simulacrum away. Other groups and individuals come to light, all wanting the simulacrum. Can the investigators find it, retain it, destroy it, and stay alive and sane? We shall see. Yes, indeed. That sounds real intense, doesn't it? Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a trip. So if you kind of glazed over that, I'll quickly summarize. Basically, there's this statue of great power, and there is a cult, the Brothers of the Skin, who worship an avatar of Nyarlathotep. They want the simulacrum, which is now in a bunch of pieces. And so one of their chief agents, like the lead of the cult's son, Mehmet Makrat, is sent to go round up all the pieces. But he wants to round up the pieces for his own purpose, not to give it to his father. But he can't really do that because he's being watched constantly. So what he does is he basically kidnaps the Professor Smith, and takes his guys. But he it's not flawless, I don't think. Or I guess it could be I don't know how it works. Well, I guess no, because it's all makeup or something. However it works, that he appears burned, but he's not actually burned, because that would be dumb. So he's kind of all bandaged up and stuff like that to kind of hide how it's not perfect. And so he pretends to be burned. He, tells Beddoes that he has to be in on this whole thing, otherwise the real Smith will die. And so he is up in this bed, and he tells the investigators to gather up all these pieces. And so he gives them all the information he has as to where it's likely to be, and gives them money, and says, you must find it and destroy it for the good of all humanity, so on and so forth. And but really, it's him saying, round it up, and then I will find you and kill you and take it all and take over the world. So they're really working for the bad guy. They just don't know it. So that would be a pretty key piece of, evidence. I don't think it would really change much, because really it says, at some point, it says early on, okay. An alternate ending is provided in the Constantinople chapter to make the campaign shorter. This ending entirely changes the starting rationale. In this version, Smith is really Smith and not Mehmet in disguise at all. Everything he says previously is true. So you could change it. You could change it so where it actually is Smith. And I guess I haven't read the whole campaign, so I guess it changes towards the end and stuff like that. There will be changes, of course. But I don't think right now that would change. Well, they would feel very angry if they did know they were working for the bad guy. But I still think they would do it, because they still want to get all these pieces and round it up before, the cult will get it eventually. So, yeah, they want to do that. But, yeah, it's better if they think they're working for the good of humanity. Which, kind of they are. Okay, so, yeah, so they're working for the bad guy, and then you have this Fenalik guy who's been around for, thousands, hundreds and hundreds of years. Well, I guess it's been a long-ass time. It's been a long time for Fenalik. He's been around the block. And so, of course, he wants the simulacrum to get back to his full power and live the life that he had and all that. But he is not what he once was. Because he's messed up. He's real, I can show you a picture of what he looks like now. And he can go into, mist form and stuff like that, but his actual physical form, where is that? That's not, it's closer to here. Okay, yeah. That's what he looks like now. So yeah, he can't just walk around in polite society anymore. So he needs to kind of stay in his more mist form and kind of hover around and stick with these investigators, because they're clearly crazy and willing enough to go across Europe and get all this, and through whatever means. In fact, a quote from Mr. Charlie Chalk, or William Barth, whatever, during the session was, "Look, guys, we're gonna kill innocent people at some point. Get over it." And Roella or Allie, whatever, is this is kind of her first campaign. So this notion shocked her greatly. She was not prepared for such a statement. But anyways, okay. So yeah, Fenalik will kind of be there for most of the campaign. He will come into the light at certain points where he'll be more directly involved And in fact, for the asylum is actually a really cool area, because the main way that they find out about Fenalik is if they commit themselves to the asylum, which is talked about in here, is self-commitment. And you can do that in two ways. One is you actually get a medical professional to get you in there, as sign you off as a mental patient, and that's the much better way, because you'll actually get real treatment. But if you're just like a vagrant, or if you just act crazy and they lock you up, then you get shit treatment. And if I was like a really dark DM, that would be real bad. But I'm just a semi-dark DM, so it would be bad. There would be bad shit going on. There would be sanity loss, not gain, from being in that asylum in that condition. And one of the nights that you're kind of just shivering and shaking in your bed, your cot at night from the torment, or I don't even know if you get a cot. Probably, I'll give you a cot. Fenalik actually floats in like his ghostly form, and you can like barely make out any like a humanoid shape, and he like whispers into your ear, and he's like asking you questions about like the simulacrum and stuff, and you're completely paralyzed. You can't move, and if he doesn't like your answer, he picks you up and chucks you into the wall, and it does like 2d6 damage. This could easily kill somebody. So I may pull a punch. If I roll double sixes or something like that, I might pull it a little bit. I wouldn't do that much, but yeah. So, and that's like, yeah, welcome to the Orient Express. No, but that's the main way they'll meet Fenalik, all right? Their first interaction, really, with Fenalik. But throughout the campaign, they're going to have, basically, from here out, from second session on, there's going to be a lot of random little occurrences that to really just keep them on edge. And, God, there's a section. I don't know if I'll ever find this section. This book is huge. There is a section that discusses basically like his Fenalik's random little occurrences and what he does to kind of keep them at unease and things like that. I don't know if I'll find it. I probably won't. No, it's not this far. Shit. No, it wouldn't be that. It's not there. I'm like all over the place in this video, I know. Oh, okay, strangeness on the train. Although he can hide almost indefinitely in or upon the Orient Express, Fenalik must come out sooner or later to feed. Yeah, he still has to feed. The evidence he leaves in his wake, coupled with his singular moods and thirst, may make the investigators aware that someone is following them. That it is the undead Fenalik should not be unveiled before the climax of the Sophia chapter. So, yeah. Like the occurrence in the asylum with that, it doesn't really. He's not going to be like, I'm the vampire Fenalik here to haunt you or anything like that. It's just going to be like, what the hell, There will be a big sanity loss from that. It might even be amnesia or something like that if I'm feeling very, peckish. So it suggests that when they're walking down like the fog-bound streets of some old city, they hear like heavy dragging footsteps behind them, and then they turn and there's nothing there. Like that'll really spook them out. Or if anybody owns a pet or anything like that, it just disappears without a trace. I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to do that. I'll tell you right now, that's too much. Horrible murders and all sorts of insanity, sure, but pets disappearing, come on. They sense that they're being watched while dining or something like that. One night, the investigators encounter a fellow passenger apparently sleepwalking. The person stands on the rattling platform between two carriages, unseen eyes staring into the rushing dark, muttering, "You called me, I came," again and again. Wakened, the somnambulist is confused and embarrassed, remembering nothing of the dream which dragged him from bed. Yeah, that's creepy. Let's see. They might find a human outline under the sheets of their bed. And they're going to be collecting pieces of the simulacrum, of course, as we go. They're going to be collecting the body, the arms, the legs, stuff like that. So it suggests that one night they go back to their bed, they pull off the sheets because there's like a body there, and it's the simulacrum, all their pieces of the simulacrum perfectly composed. That would be creepy. The sounds of animals. They find like a body floating in bloody water in a bathtub. All sorts of cool stuff we're going to be doing. Okay, so the point was, going way back in topic, the fact that I didn't think they would get out of London. And the reason for that was because of that, the man dies 3 times in one night, which is we know now is Mehmet Makrat, who killed off his assistants from the Brotherhood. And that was supposed to really kind of get their gears turning. And so if they looked into that, which would have been nice, and actually Wren did talk to his contact at Scotland Yard, and he did find out I gave him more than I really should have, but I told him that I didn't give him the piece of information. I should have given him just the one more piece of information that might have really spurred them on. I didn't tell them where Mehmet's shop was, because he owns a shop in London, and it's like a artifact. It's like a trinket shop. It's an antique shop. Yeah, he owns an antique shop, and they needed to check this out. They really did. But I told him that each of the corpses had been partially skinned. One of the torso, one of the arms, and one of the legs. And I thought, oh, maybe that'll really, that's even more interesting. Why did that happen? And each of the things had a telegram, an identical telegram that said, "Meet me in London at once, urgent, M." And I was like, come on. And I really should have pushed it even more. I should have told him the address for the shop. I should have had his contact be like, yeah, we went to Mehmet's shop at 3 Brophy Lane or whatever, but we didn't find anything there. I don't know if that would have sparked it enough, but it would have been maybe just a little bit more. Okay, so basically the goal was to get them to the shop, which is it's an old antique shop, and they would have had to break in, of course, but they would have. And they would have found... It actually would have been kind of tricky, because they would have needed to have found his account books, and then they would have had to use accounting on his books. So the chances of them uncovering this secondary scenario through the normal means written in the book is very unlikely. And that really pisses me off, because it's a really cool scenario. So I think I might take that scenario and put it somewhere else in the campaign, because I want them to experience it, because it's really cool. Because like it's very early on, and it gets them right into another dimension really quick. And it's really crazy, and just, yeah, I want to get them there. But the means of finding it, it's like an Easter egg, and that's not right. Why go through all the trouble of writing this whole separate scenario? And it has nothing to do with the main campaign at all. It's completely separate. It's a red herring all the way. But it's very cool. But why go through the whole trouble of writing it? And it's hold on. It's not that long. Where the hell is it? Where the hell is it? No, it's not that long. It's about this long. Okay, so not a huge part of the book at all, but there's a bunch of pages in there. There's like 11 pages. Why go through the trouble of writing all that? Oh, 12 pages of not writing all that and then not putting it as like an Easter egg. But anyways, the way they find his accounting books. If they roll accounting and they succeed, which none of them have any points in accounting, because the chance of a Call of Cthulhu character being made with points in accounting is like this. But they would notice that there's a kind of a not there's a strange consignment note in his books for a train set purchased from the estate of Randolph Alexis. And the last item sold was the same train set for £1, delivered to a Mr. Henry Stanley. And then if they roll a cult or whatever like that, they know who this guy is. This Alexis guy is a noted occultist from some time ago. So it's so slim, it's ridiculous. But I'll explain the scenario. Because I'm gonna try to figure out how I can fit this in Paris or something like that, maybe Lausanne or something. But okay. Oh, the other thing in London, they didn't do any research in London, I should add. No research was done in London. And I mentioned this even in the regular Roll Mangging video, where it's like, how did they not research the simulacrum at all? At all! Like, they just thought, oh, nobody's ever heard of this before. Well, on to Paris. Like, it really expects you to go to the British Museum and try and find out about the simulacrum. The problem is, of course, there's no information. I'm saying that as I'm surprised they didn't, but there's really no information about it. It just says that research implies that more information can be found in the Bibliothèque Nationale, which is where they are now. And if they research the scrolls, they succeed on a library use and a luck. They say that some may be in the Topkapi Museum in Constantinople. But the cool part is, if they spend a couple days researching, they notice a guy slumped over on his books, and he doesn't move like the whole day. And at some point, though, he tumbles out of his chair and just lays on the floor. And so you assume they go over there to check it, especially Allie, who's a nurse. And so if they like turn him over, he's completely flayed. Like, all skin has been removed from his body. So they lose a bunch of sanity. And then attached to the corpse, written in Turkish, is a note that says, "The skinless one will not be denied." And it's actually written on human skin. And that would be like, whoa, that's like huge. I might put that in Paris. I might move that over to Paris, because that is pretty cool. Because that's like, they're like, what is going on, you know? Just that extra level. I really like that. So I might move that over. But okay. Yeah, so the train set leads to a separate scenario called the Doom Train. And I'll summarize this. Basically, there's this guy, Randolph Alexis, who's an occultist. He's a murderer. He's a bad guy. He's a pretty terrible guy. And he wants to make a gate to kind of flee from this dimension, because he's wanted. He's very wanted. He's very well known. He's very wanted. And so he makes a gate while on a train, because he's like fleeing from London on a train. And so he's like, this is not good enough. So he makes a gate, but it doesn't go right, and it basically swallows up the train as well. And along with himself, the forward half of the train hurled into another dimension and utterly vanished, while the rear half derailed into a river at nearly 60 miles an hour, destroying it and killing almost all the passengers. So yeah, he killed hundreds of more people. But the front half then went into this alternate dimension, where it just continues to go forever and ever and ever and ever. This was in 1897, so this was like, 26 years ago. And so this train has just been going constantly for 26 years in this other dimension. And so the people on the train, except for, well, they're all insane. They're all completely insane. But Randolph is still a little bit more coherent than the others, who are all basically zombies, more or less. And so there's this train set then, which is kind of like, it was his son, I think. Yes. Yeah. Albert Alexis created another gate, using his father's like research. And he keyed the new gate into a toy train set. So he basically like completely replicated the original train, but using a little model train set. And he got sucked up into the train as well. So I think actually Randolph... Actually, hold on, let me check. I don't know who's still on board the train, if it's Randolph or Albert. Okay, Randolph is still on the train. I don't know where Albert is. I think he might just be gone. Oh, no. I think Randolph actually ate his son. Yeah, he did. He ate his own son. That's great. And so, okay. So, the train and him vanished, and so there was just the train set. That remained behind, because that was just the kind of the catalyst to summon the gate. And so, the mother, Mrs. Alexis, sold off a lot of the property of her husband and her son, so that included the train set, and so that kind of passed around hands until it came into a guy named Henry Stanley, who was just like trains. He was just picture your standard nerd guy that likes trains. So he bought it, and he lit it up, and he, of course, summoned the gate, opened up the gate as well, and he got sucked into the train. And so basically that leads to, that was kind of like an event, like a train, a spectral train basically appeared in an apartment in London. And so it's kind of a big deal. So the police came and all that, but they couldn't really find anything because there wasn't that much. So now the landlady of the apartment is basically just showing this room off to tourists and stuff, and calling it the death room and stuff like that. And so she basically says that he was up there, he was so excited about a train set, and she thought he was a loser. She heard him cry out, and then there was a rumbling. And she ran in there right away, and the room was just full of smoke. The window was closed and bolted from the inside, and that was it. So the police took the train set, which I guess went back to... okay, yeah, so the police took the train set, which was the only evidence they really have. That went to for expert examination to the London Train Spotters Associations, where the president, Arthur Butter, has it. So they have to go talk to Arthur Butter, and they have to convince them that there's something with this train set, and they want to investigate it for themselves. And if they make a good case, and they're really nice, and they don't insult nerds that like train sets, he'll borrow to them. And so they can fire up the train set themselves and get sucked into the other dimension, and they get board then the Doom Train. Aboard the Doom Train, they meet a bunch of zombies who want to kill them. Who want to kill them quick. And okay, so there's 10 zombies basically aboard this train. They can each attack once per round, and their only really attack is to grab you. It's a fighting maneuver, so they're really shit at it. They have like a 30% in brawl. So they have a 30% chance to grab you. You can dodge, of course, and fight back. And once they do grab you, you have one round to try and break free. And then after that, they will try to kiss you, of which they have a 20% chance. And if you don't break free and they roll that, they roll the kiss, you lose your soul and you die and you become a zombie. And so you can't kill them. You can only kind of slow them down by dismembering them and stuff like that. And so that could be more sanity loss. It's 1d6 sanity to see them, 1d8 to see a friend to become one by losing their soul, and then it's up to me based on dismembering them if they do that. But you gotta like that kind of sounds extreme, like death by loss of soul, just being grabbed by a zombie and kissed. But that's a 30% chance to grab you, and then you have probably plenty of chances to break free unless I get really lucky twice, in which case you only get one chance to break free with a strength roll. And their strength is pretty good, I'll admit. Lowest is 55 across the board. Generally, it's around 70. So their strength is pretty good. It's not easy to break free, but it's possible. So yeah, it could die from loss of soul, which is a cool way to go out in Call of Cthulhu, I'll admit. But yeah, so basically they get on the train for whatever reason. There's a bunch of zombies there, and if they evade them, they go into like a second carriage, and that's where they meet Randolph Alexis, the original guy. And he wants to obviously get off. He wants to get off the train and go back to the normal dimension, but to do that, he needs to basically open up the same gate to bring them back. And it's not just whoever opens a gate in the real universe, the train people can just hop back through. It has to be a gate formed in this dimension. And so to do that, they need to recreate the train, but they don't have the means to create a model train set. So what Randolph Alexis has done is he's constructed a train set out of organs. It is a huge design in a twisted figure 8 pattern spread flat on the compartment floor, fashioned of human intestines and other offal. And there's something wrong with it. They don't have... He needs like an elevation in some part of the track, so they have to figure that out. And so Henry Stanley is still there, but he's scared out of his freaking mind. So they have to convince him. And zombies, they need to fire up the train, the model train set made of intestines. So they need to fire that up, and it needs to go for like 1d50 revolutions. And they need to push, there's no electricity. They have to actually push the train, which is a heart, around the track themselves manually. And while that's going on, the zombies have figured out how to break into the other carriage. So zombies are breaking through in the windows, while these, probably at least 2 investigators, hopefully 2, if it's just 1, it's going to take a while, are pushing a heart around an intestine train track. And, yeah, it's complete insanity. And so, finally, if they do complete the thing, they complete all the revolutions, the gate opens, the train comes back where it originally left, which was on train tracks out in, the countryside. Very unexpectedly for the other train coming that direction. So, yeah, they're basically, like, 10 seconds away from a head-on collision. So, if they run immediately over to where the controls are, at the front of the train, and they know what they're doing, and they roll successful luck, they can stop the Doom train before a collision. Otherwise, they either have to leap from the train and take some damage. Not a whole lot. It won't kill them, but take some damage. Or if they think, oh, we'll ride it out. It's a Doom train. 4d6 damage. Easily killing them if they stick around. I don't think they're that stupid, but you never know with Dingleberry. And so then if they flee the scene, they get 1d6 sanity points, which is not worth it at all. And they probably have learned enough to be able to recreate the Doomgate spell if they want to. But they probably don't want to, because it costs 10 power permanently, 6 magic points, and sanity to set up the spell. But you can go to any dimension you want. You just have to know what dimension you want to go to. So it could be useful, maybe in an emergency. But it takes a while to cast it because you need to do, like, the revolution. That's like 1d50 rounds. So it's not really just, oh, Doomgate. It's like a thing that you're doing, but it could be useful. But really, that's all they get out of it. That's it. It's just an experience, and I think it's a really cool one. I want to get it in, so I need to put it into Paris, and I'm not sure how. They don't have many contacts yet. They really don't have many at all. There's Remy, but I don't know how to. I mean, I guess I could shoehorn it in. They'd probably realize that I'm shoehorning it in. Maybe not. I could make a newspaper article. I could have an anonymous tip. Let's be honest, all right? You all know it. I mean, I've already kind of teased it. You all know Gulk is going to make an appearance. But, he's not going to be called Gulk. And he's not going to act Gulkish. I'm sorry. I got to keep it a bit more subtle this time. He's basically going to be their conductor aboard the Orient Express. So he's going to be the real friendly guy that's always there to help him. He's going to be like the Tom Hanks on Polar Express of the Orient Express. But, of course, he's going to be, Nyarlathotep. I think he's going to go by the name Giuseppe Oligarch. Because, Giuseppe Oligarch, Oligarch, Gulk. Yeah, you get it. Okay. So he'll probably be shorter of stature than normal, but he won't have a big beard. He won't be plump, and he won't be little plump. But he won't be Gulk. I'm sorry. I can't do it. We gotta have a little subtlety. I gotta make them think that, oh, this guy must be in the book. He's like an NPC. We can trust this guy. I want them to trust this guy. Ziggy will not. Ziggy already knows all about it, because I think it's his name. I think way back when, this was a while ago, we were talking about coming up with other names for Gulk that he would use, and I think he suggested the name Giuseppe for something, so he'll know immediately. It doesn't matter. But the others, it'll be fun. So I could have an anonymous tip from Nyarlathotep, which is probably the only way that I can really do it. So the anonymous tip will basically be... Actually, there is a newspaper article. And really, I'm kind of dumb. Well, they didn't give me enough time, and they wouldn't have followed up on it. But I actually don't even need to shoehorn it in, because it said there's a newspaper article that shows up in the press, and it kind of draws a lot of attention. I'm going to have to... I don't think I can give them the newspaper article because it's written all in London. But I will tell them I'll verbally tell them about this story they read in the newspaper, which is getting a lot of attention. People are talking about it at breakfast, about how a man disappeared in a cloud of smoke. That will get their attention. They're in Paris. They're looking for leads. They are searching desperately for any leads. They will follow up on this. And so I just have to transfer everything over to Paris. They'll go to the apartment. I just give everybody a French accent. They go to the train association, all that kind of stuff, and we are on to the Doom train. You can look forward to that. Okay, so what else was there? The Doom train was the big thing that I was sad I missed out on. Yeah, it actually gives stats for a fire vampire in the London chapter. Because if the investigators suspect that Julius Smith is not who he says he is, and they attack him, and he'll summon a fire vampire with some flailing of his hand, and in the chaos he'll kill Beddoes, and he'll disappear or something like that, or he'll pretend to die in the fire while they get chased out. Because if a fire vampire appears in a small wooden apartment, yeah, shit's going down. Mehmet can escape, but yeah, they're gonna have to run. Anyways, what did I just see? Whoa! I was flipping over the page. I looked at the bottom of the fire vampire stat. It said sanity loss. 0/1d6 sanity points for seeing a fire vampire. Finally! They rectified it! They realized they were making these stats for 7th edition. They're like, wait a minute. Why don't fire vampires cause sanity loss? It's ridiculous. Yes, it was ridiculous. Thank you. Oh. Because it was so stupid. If you saw a fire vampire in real life, you'd be scared. I would hope you'd be scared. Thank you. That's perfect. Now I'm really happy. Okay. So yes, Paris. What else is there to really say about Paris? Yeah, so they have a lot more research to do at the library. They have at least a couple more days. And there will actually be a riot. They won't be able to find Remy the next day. Or is that the 15th? That might be the... Yeah, if they're still researching on the 15th, we'll see. Apparently in the real world, there was a riot on January 15, 1923, in which a youth is killed when French troops fire on protesters. Yeah, that will probably be Remy. They're gonna probably... I'm gonna let them try and prevent that from happening, but he'll be there. He might get shot. We'll see. But really, they want the main key is that the main piece of evidence that they need to find in Paris is about the Comte Fenelix villa from way back in the day. They need to find out about that in Poissy because they need to go there to get the first piece of the simulacrum, the left hand, if I remember correctly. So they need to find that. There's really nothing at Sharrington. It's completely pointless, but it gives them some hints and some ideas about Fenelix. That's basically it. The main point of Paris is to get to Poissy, which is about 17 miles west of Paris. What else did I want to say? Oh, the catacombs. Right. I can mention the catacombs briefly. It's really... I built it up a lot during the session. It's really nothing. There's no reason to go to the catacombs. It doesn't give any evidence, but they don't need to know that. Basically what it is they go on the tour of the catacombs, and like the deepest point of their tour, they hear bones tumbling in the dark. And listen rolls place the sounds beyond a locked gate to a side passage. A spot hidden in the darkness detects a man-sized shape burying itself in the ossuary. And so if they pick the lock or they break open the old rusty door and they go down into this darkness towards this tumbling bones and man-sized shape, and they smell just rot and death and dirt and bone, and a cold wind blows, and they have to be insane to do this, really. I don't know who rationally minded investigators are going to do this, but Dingleberry will do it. And if they go down there, it's really like The Descent or some shit. If they go down there, they keep going, they find a ghoul. They find a ghoul named Guillaume. And ghouls in the mythos, the Lovecraft universe, are not like the ghoul that you're thinking of. Ghouls in the mythos are mainly creatures of the Dreamlands. And basically they're kind of like dog men. They're like insane dog men, more or less. It's a very rough description. But they speak in a very dog language, and they have kind of like a muzzle, and they got fangs, stuff like that. You take a sanity loss for seeing them. They're not pretty, and they smell terrible, and you know, they're not somebody you want to really mess with. But they are actually pretty. In like the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, they're actually pretty congenial. They're not feral or anything like that. You can associate with them and make deals with them, and they'll help you. Their main foe is the Gugs, because nobody deals with the Gugs, and I hope to God there's a Gug in this campaign at some point. And so basically, if they go up to him and they try to communicate with him or anything like that, he just he speaks in Ghoul and French, and his French is not great, so chances are none of them are going to be really talking to him. But to hear this kind of ghoul creature speak broken French, God, that's going to wreck my accent. I don't know what I'm going to do there. If they attack him, he just runs into the darkness, but he'll probably scratch them. He'll probably like lash out at Dingleberry. I don't know. Dingleberry seems like the type that would attack first. And Guillaume will actually show up later when they go to the Dreamlands. Oh yes, they are going on the Dreamlands. It's actually a major portion of this campaign. This is the Dreamlands section, which is a good chunk of this book. It's from page 131 to 180. So almost 50 pages of this is the Dreamlands. And it is, I think the Dreamlands is so far the best part of the campaign that I've read. It is so cool because it's so different just like the Dreamland, books in the mythos are so different from everything else that Lovecraft wrote. The Dreamlands in here is just so unique. It's not anything else like in Call of Cthulhu. And I don't think I would run a whole campaign in the Dreamlands because that's a bit too fantasy for me. But the way that it's broken up in here, it's kind of like they'll do the real stuff, and then when they go to bed, they go to the Dreamlands. And they'll do stuff there, and then they go back. And so it switches back and forth, and I think that's really cool. I don't have time to go into the whole Dreamlands, and they won't get to that next time, I'm pretty certain. So you don't have to worry about that yet. I'll talk about the Dreamlands next time. But it is definitely very cool, very unique. I can't wait for them to experience that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I expect them to do something stupid at the asylum. Maybe they'll get committed. They're going to have to... I'll probably have to kind of spur that idea in their heads to do that. I'm sure Dingleberry will go down to the catacombs. But he won't die. I'm not going to kill him in the catacombs or anything like that. So he'll just be really scared and, freaked out. Maybe injured. And then really the main thing is the Doom Train. I'm going to put that in. That'll happen. And I'm pretty sure they're going to take up on that. So I don't want to kill them on the Doom Train. I really don't. So it's unfortunate that really the main attack of the zombies is just kill you. But I think actually that's okay. Because if I just avoid doing that, then it's just really scary. It's really like, oh God. But they won't actually die. Nothing will really happen. So really the only danger from that then is the train. I hope they're not stupid enough to ride out the collision. Come on, Dingleberry. But yeah, that's a good introduction then to Horror on the Orient Express. I hope I've piqued your interest into what this campaign has in store. Alternate dimensions, asylums, catacombs, doom trains, ghouls, gugs. It's going to be crazy, I assure you. But that is enough for me for Secrets of Role Manging. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. My name is Mang. I'll see you fine folks next week.